Immortality is beyond your reach. Should you suffer a fatal blow, your life will come to an end. Fortunately, you gain one level every single year. The only problem is that you have no idea what these levels equate to in terms of cultivation within this world. To survive in this realm of immortals, you have sequestered yourself deep within the mountains. In the blink of an eye, 10,000 years have passed. It was not until the first dark upheaval occurred, when a master of a forbidden zone emerged from the unknown, slaughtering every living soul in this world, that you were finally forced to step out of the mountain. However, witnessing this living hell, you felt a surge of fear and a desire to flee, yet your feet refused to obey your commands. Just as you resigned yourself to becoming fodder for the red-haired monster like all the others, you were startled to discover that you were perfectly unharmed. Perhaps a minuscule weak creature such as yourself was not even worthy of notice. But just as you thought you had escaped death, the red-haired monster suddenly descended before you. Every living soul has perished. Why are you the only one left alive? I have no idea. You answered instinctively, a response that immediately enraged the red-haired monster. In the next moment, the beast opened its maw and inhaled lightly in your direction. To your surprise, not only were you not pulled in, but you remained standing in place, completely unscathed. Seeing this, the monster refused to accept it. It immediately unleashed the energy within its body, sending a terrifying wave of spiritual pressure crashing toward you. My friend, please, let us go our separate ways. There is no need for such aggression. You furrowed your brow, assuming the monster intended to torture you to death. I can accept death, but do not torment me. Even a rabbit will bite when pushed to the limit. With that, you reach back to draw the sword from your scabbard, deciding to put up a token resistance. Although you were at level 10,000, you had no benchmark for how that compared to the cultivation realms of others, but you felt you had to at least resist. The ensuing scene left you absolutely stunned. You swung your blade in a plain, unadorned strike devoid of any flashy effects, and the red-haired monster met a swift and effortless end. As you stood there in a daze, the earth split open along the center line where the monster's body had been severed, a fissure spreading out into the distance, stretching beyond the reach of your vision. You looked at the sword in your hand, then back at the shattered landscape. Very well, you muttered. It seems I am a little stronger than I thought. Ever since the astonishing effectiveness of that single sword strike, you were no longer the coward you once were. Whoever mocked you, you would strike them down. Whoever stood as an eyesore, you would strike them down. Later, you realized with amazement that there was nothing in this world that could not be solved with one sword strike. If something remained, then two. By the 70,000th year in this world, having grown weary of wandering, you found a mountain and settled down, subsequently taking in several orphans, and incidentally founding a sect named the Changsheng Sect. As a result, despite your lack of interest in managing its affairs, the sect became the premier power of the entire continent. Yet having stayed in one place for too long, boredom was inevitable. Feeling somewhat fatigued, you drifted off to sleep. Unexpectedly, this slumber lasted for over 20,000 years. Unaware that you had lived for 100,000 years, you did not know what changes had occurred in the outside world, nor did you realize how overwhelmingly powerful you had become. However, instead of assessing your own strength, you walked toward a magnificent mountain gate. 20,000 years had passed. You wondered how the sect you had founded with your own hands had developed over time. To your surprise, the two disciples standing guard at the gate stared at you in absolute astonishment. This Grand Guardian formation had been personally arranged by the great Emperor Xuanji, and it was continuously maintained by his imperial soul. For the soul of the great Emperor Xuanji to remain intact, even a quasi-emperor powerhouse wielding an imperial weapon would need to exert significant effort to breach it. Yet at this very moment, a young man had walked in without warning, and the Guardian formation had not reacted in the slightest. How could this be possible? How could this be? Who are you? The Changsheng Sect has never welcomed outsiders. I suggest you leave at once. You retracted your aura to the absolute limit and glanced at the disciple, saying, I have come to visit Little Yang. Which Little Yang? Yang Xuanji. I heard he is nearing death, so I have brought him a coffin. Hold your tongue. Hearing these words, the two gatekeeping disciples were immediately incensed. One must understand that the great Emperor Xuanji is the patron of the Changsheng Sect. Even with only a remnant soul remaining, no one is permitted to insult him. In the next moment, the two disciples unleashed their lethal techniques, sending two razor-sharp sword radiances hurtling toward you. However, to their utter shock, you remained completely unscathed. Just as they anticipated their inevitable demise, you walked past them toward the interior, as calm as if nothing had happened. Naturally, the commotion before the mountain gate caught the attention of many elders and disciples within the Changsheng Sect. Instantly, countless figures soared from the palace, unleashing a torrential barrage of techniques directly toward you. You offered no resistance, allowing their onslaught to strike your body freely, while continuing to walk steadily toward the Changsheng Hall ahead. As you walked, you spoke in a booming voice that resonated throughout the area. Put some effort into it. If you lack even the strength to strike a man, how can you even claim to be cultivators? Just like that, amidst wave after wave of techniques from the elders and disciples of the Changsheng Sect, you arrived unscathed before the Changsheng Hall you had not seen in so long. The members of the Changsheng Sect exchanged glances, their faces pale as if they had seen a monster. This man's defense is impenetrable. You sighed with indifference. Their attacks had not even managed to stir a sensation of discomfort. It seems the Changsheng Sect has truly fallen into decline. You recalled that when the 7 disciples you once took in practiced their techniques upon you, you at least felt a hint of an itch. Just then, a man and a woman stepped out from the Changsheng Hall. Xiaojue and Luo Qingxue, the 2 geniuses of the younger generation, heralded as the future hope of the Changsheng Sect. Who are you? Why have you trespassed into our Changsheng Sect? You cast a glance over Xiaojue and Luo Qingxue, then looked past them, where a faint ethereal phantom drifted. Though it was but a projection, it emanated a vast and imposing authority. This phantom was naturally the final soul fragment of Yang Xuanji. With the appearance of this projection, all the elders and disciples of the Changsheng Sect knelt on one knee, bowing respectfully as they cried out, "Ancestral Master!" They had expected the Ancestral Master to punish this impudent youth, yet unexpectedly the phantom merely waved its hand, commanding everyone to disperse. "Master, this man," Xiaoju started to speak, but the phantom spoke again with solemn severity. "I said disperse. Everyone is to leave at once without my command. No one is to step foot into the Changsheng Hall." Understood. The disciples and elders of the Changsheng Sect exchanged wary, bewildered looks before obediently scattering. Once everyone had departed, Yang Xuanji performed an action that defied all expectations. "Master," the phantom immediately burst into tears beside you, weeping with heartfelt grievance. "Master, where have you been for all these years? I feared that I would never see you again in this lifetime." You looked at the aggrieved Yang Xuanji beside you and patted his shoulder. "My apologies. It turns out that Yang Xuanji was a servant who walked by your side 30,000 years ago. Back then, following you meant wandering the world, plundering the corrupt to aid the impoverished. Life was incredibly free and unrestrained, but for reasons unknown you suddenly vanished thereafter. Your 7 disciples ascended to the immortal realm one after another within 1,000 years of your departure, leaving Yang Xuanji behind in the solitude of time. Yang Xuanji realized with horror that he had become the strongest person in the sect, yet simultaneously the most fragile. With the great emperor's failed legacy, the sect gradually withered, and today he is all that remains of its peak strength. If he were to perish, the Changsheng Sect would be carved up by various hostile factions. This is the very reason for the Changsheng Sect's decline. These circumstances were already broadly understood by you on your journey here. After all, Yang Xuanji had followed you for thousands of years. Naturally, you could not simply stand by and watch him fade away. Thus you spoke calmly. "The coffin I have brought for you is called the soul-nurturing casket. By resting within it, your physical body and soul will be endlessly revitalized. Go inside and take your rest. Upon waking, you shall be restored to your prime state. Once you begin your second life, you must exert your own efforts to cultivate and ascend." Upon hearing these words, Yang Xuanji's face immediately beamed with joy. "I knew Master would always treat me best. Master, then I shall go to sleep. I leave the Changsheng Sect in your care." You waved your hand dismissively. "Go, go, go." "Oh, that's right, Master. Those 2 disciples of mine, one possesses the desolate ancient sacred body, and the other holds the yin-moon divine body capable of an emperor's path. I personally went down the mountain to retrieve them. Please, guide them for me." He chuckled softly. Yang Xuanji seemed somewhat proud of himself. "Understood. Hurry off to sleep. By the time you wake, they will likely be stronger than you are now." As he closed the lid of the casket, he muttered to himself with a smile, "My master has returned. Let this world tremble." With a dull thud, he sealed the casket shut. At that very moment, the guardian formation that had enveloped the entire Changsheng Sect dissipated instantly. Witnessing this scene, the expressions of Xiao Jue and Luo Qingxue shifted instantly. The 2 exchanged glances before transforming into streaks of light, surging directly toward the Changsheng Hall. Soon the Changsheng Hall was packed to capacity. Everyone stared at the figure sitting lazily upon the main throne of the Changsheng Hall, their eyes filled with astonishment and suspicion. Who is he? By what right does he occupy the throne of the Changsheng Hall? One must know that the throne of the Changsheng Hall has always been reserved solely for the sect master. Has the disappearance of ancestor Zhuangji's emperor soul something to do with this young man in white? As some considered this, they could not help but feel a sense of melancholy in their hearts. Is the Changsheng sect truly destined to decline in such a fashion? Just as the crowd remained in a state of uncertainty, Xiaojue and Luo Qingxue walked directly before them and bowed low in respect. Disciple Xiaoju pays respects to our founding patriarch. Disciple Luo Qingxue pays respects to our founding patriarch. As these words echoed, the members of the Changsheng sect were stunned into silence. The founding patriarch? Did our founding patriarch not depart the Changsheng sect over 20,000 years ago, never to return? Wait a moment, the disciples of the Changsheng sect suddenly recalled something. In an instant, the divine sense of every person present immediately turned toward the massive statue towering over the plaza, and upon comparing it with the young man in white sitting composedly upon the throne, the realization dawned. They were identical in every handsome and graceful detail. Heavens! Everyone was struck with utter astonishment. No wonder this man possessed such extraordinary presence. It turned out that the founding patriarch of our Changsheng sect had returned. In a flash, every member of the Changsheng sect bowed in deep reverence. We pay homage to the patriarch. Legends say the patriarch is a being even more terrifying than the 7 great emperors of the past. Your power is beyond imagination. At last, the Changsheng sect has hope for a resurgence. The young man on the throne narrowed his eyes, scanned the crowd below, and smiled. Rise, all of you. It seems that statue in the plaza was not merely a decorative ornament after all. He then lowered his gaze to look at Xiaojue and Luo Qingxue. The desolate ancient sacred body and the Taiyan divine body both possess the aptitude of great emperors. It seems I have found two promising saplings. Your master has gone to sleep. He said this with effortless ease. From this day forward, should the Changsheng Sect face any troubles, simply come to me. Sleep? You mean he is sleeping? Xiaoju muttered in confusion. Is this an eternal slumber? Perceiving their bewilderment, he added casually, in short, he is not dead. Hearing this, the members of the Changsheng Sect exhaled, a heavy burden lifted from their hearts. Yet, his next words left everyone filled with envy. From now on, the two of you shall follow me in cultivation. As you command, Patriarch. Xiaojue and Luo Qingxue felt a surge of excitement within them. One must know that the most glorious era of the Changsheng Sect was when the 7 great emperors ruled in tandem. Those 7 great emperors were all mentored by this very Patriarch. To follow him in cultivation would surely yield boundless benefits. However, just as everyone was overcome with joy, a sudden voice resounded from the skies above the Changsheng Sect. Saintess Fen Yanyan of the Fen Tian sect comes to pay a visit. Looking toward the source of the voice, he saw several figures dressed in red drifting gracefully from the distance. So soon, it seems he's already unable to sit still. Follow me and we shall see for ourselves. Xiao Sai stood up and walked toward the outside of the palace with calm and leisurely steps. At this moment, 4 figures clad in red descended from the sky onto the plaza of the Changsheng sect. Leading them was a woman with an extraordinary aura, her cultivation base firmly at the mid-stage of the wise saint realm, and a trace of arrogance glimmering in her eyes as she surveyed the surroundings. She let out a scornful laugh, noting that even the sect's grand defensive formation had vanished. It seems the old ancestor was not mistaken. The final wisp of Emperor Xuanji's soul has truly dissipated into smoke. After the passing of Emperor Xuanji, the Changsheng sect does not even have a quasi-emperor to shoulder the burden of the big picture. It is truly laughable. Great Elder Shinqinsheng stepped forward to receive them, his face wearing a polite smile as he asked what had brought the saintess of the Fen Tian sect to their doorstep. Little did he know that the next words from Fen Yanyan would leave everyone present in shock. She stepped forward with a haughty expression, and disregarding all pretense, she spoke loudly, I am here to annul the engagement. Hearing these words, the expressions of everyone from the Changsheng sect turned grim. The Fen Tian sect is situated right next to the Changsheng sect. The two sects are practically neighbors. 2 years ago, young Xuanji, knowing he did not have many years left, brought a quasi-emperor weapon as a betrothal gift and traveled to the Fen Tian sect to arrange a marriage, hoping that after his death, the Fen Tian sect would offer some protection to the Changsheng sect. The old ancestor of the Fen Tian sect had readily agreed and just as readily accepted the quasi-emperor weapon. Yet who could have expected that the moment the emperor soul of old ancestor Xuanji vanished, the people of the Fen Tian sect would assume he had died and come straight to their door to demand an annulment. Upon learning the source of the matter, you maintained an indifferent expression. Annulling the engagement is not a problem. You may do so provided you return the quasi-emperor weapon. As these words were spoken, the expressions of Fen Yanyan and her companions shifted slightly. A quasi-emperor weapon is a precious treasure. For ordinary forces, possessing one to guard their sect can elevate their strength by an entire tier. Such a treasure was already hot in the hands of the Fen Tian sect, and naturally they had no intention of returning it. After all, in their eyes, since young Xuanji was gone, what did it matter if they did not return it? Thus, the old crone at the peak of the wise saint realm behind Fen Yanyan could not help but sneer. Once a gift has been sent out by the Changsheng Sect to speak without fear of the world's mockery, hearing such audacity made you laugh heartily. Calling the cancellation of an engagement without returning the betrothal gifts an act of righteousness, it left even me speechless. Is this not simply an attempt to defraud the betrothal gifts? So blatantly shameless you let out a faint chuckle. Very well, if they refuse to return them, then the resolution becomes far simpler. Finishing your words, you slowly extended a single finger, tapping gently toward that elderly crone at the peak of the Supreme Saint realm. The very next moment, a scene that struck terror into the hearts of all who witnessed it unfolded. With a single thunderous boom, that old woman disintegrated instantly into a mist of blood and bone. Fragments of gore scattered everywhere. Witnessing this, Fen Yanran and the other two were paralyzed with shock, a flurry of confusion racing through their minds. What had just happened? The great elder was at the peak of the Supreme Saint realm. Why would she suddenly explode for no reason? It was because they had not noticed your finger pointing toward her moments ago. They had only seen the great elder detonate suddenly on the spot, without any warning and without sensing a single ripple of energy. At this moment, Fen Yanran and her companions looked around with wary expressions, questioning who had launched the strike. Had the Emperor Soul Yang Xuanji not already vanished? Who else within the Changsheng sect possessed such capability? Yet the members of the Changsheng sect all turned their gazes toward you simultaneously. They knew it was undoubtedly their ancestor who had acted, killing silently and invisibly, as expected of the ancestor. These methods were truly terrifying. Just then, another powerhouse at the Supreme Saint realm behind Fen Yanran finally regained his senses. Your Changsheng sect dares to kill an elder of our Fen Tian sect. Do you intend to declare war against us? War? You offered a disdainful smile. Declaring war against the Changsheng sect, are you even worthy? Mid-sentence, you flicked your hand, and with a resounding boom, the one who had just spoken was reduced to a mist of blood. This time, Fen Yanran and the final Supreme Saint Realm expert finally saw clearly that it was you who had acted. Both of them drew in a sharp, cold breath. This remarkably handsome youth in white possessed such terrifying strength. The last powerhouse of the Changsheng Sect was about to speak, but you merely glared at him and he departed from this world in quiet stillness. Seeing this, Fen Yanran was frightened out of her wits, standing rooted to the spot in utter horror. What kind of ability was this? She did not dare utter a single word, fearing she would follow in the footsteps of the other three. Because those three had all spoken before they were reduced to blood and gore, this seemed to be the rules of death enforced by the youth in white. However, contrary to her expectations, you had no intention of killing her. You simply said indifferently, "Go back and tell your elders this. Tell him to personally deliver that quasi-emperor weapon here by tomorrow. Do not force me to pay a visit to your Fentian gate myself. Furthermore, I shall clarify this matter of the annulment. It was Xiao Juo who initiated the cancellation of the engagement. Ensure you distinguish clearly between the two." Nalan Yanran trembled violently, not daring to lift her head or speak, fearing that a single word might trigger your killing intent. "Where is your answer?" You furrowed your brows slightly, and Nalan Yanran replied in a hushed, trembling voice. "Yanran understands. Yanran will surely relay the senior's words. Understood? You may leave." Nalan Yanran then fled the Changsheng Hall, burdened by overwhelming pressure and gripped by fear. Her expression was one of sheer terror and absolute docility, a complete departure from her previous demeanor. Immediately afterward, she launched herself into the sky, fleeing at full speed without once looking back, eager to escape this center of turmoil and return to report to the Patriarch. Yet, after Nalan Yanran departed, the members of the Changsheng Sect gathered in the Great Hall looked at the Patriarch with expressions of deep admiration. His dominance was absolute, and with him present, they felt a profound sense of security. Not long after, within a grand hall of the Fentian Gate, the Fentian Gate Patriarch Fen Jing and the current sectmaster Fen Lai listened to the news brought back by Nalan Yanran. Their expressions turned grim. 3 experts of the Supreme Saint Realm had perished in an instant, all at the hands of a young man in white. Since when did the Changsheng Sect possess such a formidable expert? Fen Lai spoke in a rage. Patriarch, to lose 3 Supreme Saint Elders in one stroke, this Changsheng Sect is becoming far too arrogant. The reason he had arranged for 3 Supreme Saint experts to accompany Nalan Yanran to the Changsheng Sect for the annulment was to serve as a warning to them. He wanted to signal to the Changsheng Sect, "What if we annul the engagement without returning the betrothal gifts? Our Fentian Gate can summon 3 Supreme Saint experts at a whim. What can you offer in response?" After all, since the fall of the Emperor Soul Yang Xuanji, the Changsheng Sect was rumored to have only 6 Supreme Saint experts remaining. Yet what they never expected was that these 3 experts would never return. Not even their corpses remained. Has this Changsheng Sect gone mad? With the Emperor's soul, Yang Xuanji, having just dissipated and countless forces watching from the shadows, how could they have the audacity to provoke the Fentian Gate in such a state? Fenjing's face was etched with deep wrinkles, yet he remained far more calm and composed. He looked at Nalan Yanran and asked, "Yanran, did you see with your own eyes that young man in white kill Elder Fen Li and the other 2 elders?" Nalan Yanran recalled the scene, still deeply traumatized. In truth, she could hardly describe it as a struggle. "I did not even notice how the first elder died. As for the other 2 elders, I only saw that young man in white." With a mere flick of his hand, the 8th elder's body exploded into a mist of blood and bone. The 9th elder was about to speak when he cast a single glance at him, and he too burst apart. In short, it was utterly terrifying. Fen Jing fell into deep contemplation, and after a long silence, he slowly spoke, "These are the methods of a great emperor." Upon hearing these words, Fen Li's heart trembled. Old ancestor, has another great emperor emerged within the Changsheng Sect? Fen Jing analyzed the situation. Perhaps not. Throughout its history, the Changsheng Sect has produced 8 great emperors. Their foundation is exceptionally deep. Although they have declined, those great emperors must have left behind numerous defenses for the Changsheng Sect. After all, it was once a Tao legacy power of the great emperor level. A lean camel is still bigger than a horse. This is hardly surprising. That young man in white likely utilized the power left behind by their great emperors, combined with his own theatrics, simply to create an intimidating facade. To go so far as to expend the reserves left by their ancestors just to deal with our Fentian sect. I truly do not understand what the Changsheng sect is thinking. Having said this, Fen Jing could not help but sigh. He knew their true enemies were those other great emperor-level Tao legacies. Even now, countless factions are casting covetous eyes upon the 7 enlightenment steels left behind by those 7 great emperors. They truly will not allow us to claim even a shred of benefit. Meanwhile, Fen Yanyan, standing to the side, seemed unconvinced by the old ancestor's analysis. Is it truly as you say? Yet she clearly felt that the 3 elders had been wiped out by that youth in white as easily as crushing an ant with a mere flick of his finger. But out of respect for the old ancestor's experience and standing, Fen Yanyan kept her thoughts to herself. At this moment, Fen Lai suddenly asked, "Old ancestor, what about that quasi-emperor weapon?" Fen Jing's next response left him feeling rather disappointed. "Return it for the time being." While the Changsheng Sect may not be able to withstand a full-scale war, our Fentian Sect is not prepared to bear the cost of one either. The Changsheng Sect still possesses its underlying foundations after all. Let the other factions exhaust those reserves for us. We must not be the first bird to emerge from the forest. It is not worth damaging our own vitality to clash with the declining sect. Hearing this, Fenley opened his mouth as if to speak, but hesitated. He clearly could not swallow this humiliation. Are the lives of those 3 elders just to be disregarded? Unexpectedly, Fenjing's attitude remained remarkably calm. This matter will be settled after I reach the Great Emperor realm. If the Changsheng Sect still exists by the time I make my breakthrough. Is the old ancestor about to break through to the Great Emperor realm? Hearing Fenjing's words, the dark clouds on Fen lies. Once the old ancestor reaches the Great Emperor realm, the entire Fentian sect will be able to ascend to the status of a Great Emperor-level orthodoxy. Contenders across the entire 9 provinces continent have reached the threshold of the Great Emperor realm and are already fully prepared. In 2 days' time, I shall enter secluded meditation. During my period of seclusion, all affairs of the Fentian sect are entrusted to you. Do not let any incidents arise. Some matters are better avoided if possible. Fenlai bowed and accepted the old ancestor's command. Thus, on the 2nd day, the Fentian sect indeed sent men to return the quasi-emperor weapon to the Changsheng Sect. Behind the mountain of the Changsheng Sect, you lay lazily upon a rattan chair. Is this Fentian sect not being a bit too cowardly? In your hand, you held the quasi-emperor weapon returned by the Fentian sect, a long, slender saber. You recognize this saber as having been forged by one of your former great emperor disciples. It is truly a pity. You had originally intended to annihilate a sect just to amuse yourself, and now you feel a sense of overwhelming boredom. Previously, you had truly intended to destroy the Fentian sect, to kill the chicken to scare the monkey. It is just a shame that this Fentian sect turned out to be so faint-hearted. You killed 3 of their Supreme Saint Realm elders, and yet they didn't even dare to make a sound. It is truly disappointing. No one expected that your amusement would arrive so quickly. At this moment, Shen Qinshang suddenly appeared behind you. Reporting to the sect master, the Shenshu sect has sent representatives to pay a visit. The Shenshu sect is a rising power bordering the western boundaries of our Changsheng sect and has never been on good terms with us. Their old ancestor was a favored child of heaven in the previous era, having broken through to the quasi-emperor realm in just 2,000 years, and it was he who led the Shenshu sect to enter the ranks of quasi-emperor-level orthodoxies 1,000 years ago. Since ascending to the status of a quasi-emperor-level orthodoxy, the growth of the Shenshu sect can be described as meteoric. 500 years ago, yet another individual among them stepped into the quasi-emperor realm. As of today, the Shenshu sect possesses 2 quasi-emperors and over a dozen experts at the Supreme Saint realm holding down the fort. Old Ancestor Xuanji once told us that the reason for the Shenshu sect's rapid development is primarily due to the powerful backing they have behind them. Along with the expansion of the Shenshu sect, their actions have become increasingly arrogant. Over the past century, as the Emperor soul of Old Ancestor Xuanji has grown dimmer, they have clashed with the Changsheng sect more frequently. We suspect that they have likely sensed the fading of Old Ancestor Xuanji's Emperor soul. I fear that this visit holds no good intentions. You took a sip of wine feeling quite indifferent, and with a smile you said, the Shenshu sect certainly knows how to name themselves. It seems there are more and more people who cannot stay quiet. I only hope that this Shenshu sect can prove to be a bit more formidable and not let me down. Having said that, Xiaosai stood up and swept his sleeves before striding toward the Changsheng Hall. Upon arriving at the Changsheng Hall, he witnessed a young man adorned magnificent robes, sitting nonchalantly upon a chair he had brought there himself, legs crossed, his gaze radiating the arrogance of one who looks down upon the masses. Behind this youth stood five experts of the Jisheng realm, one of whom had reached the peak of that cultivation level. With such a formation and such an arrogant demeanor, those unaware would have thought this place belonged to him. His presence was even more overbearing than that of the Fentian sect members from before. You remained as you were, seated firmly upon the Changsheng sect's throne. Xiaojue and Luo Qingxue stood on either side of you. Upon seeing the youth in the magnificent robes, the young man seemed somewhat startled. He naturally knew that the primary seat was reserved for the sect master alone. Yet he could not sense a single shred of cultivation aura emanating from the young man in white. He wondered why he had never heard of such a figure in the Changsheng sect, speculating that this must be a secret successor the sect had been quietly grooming. He glanced at the cold and elegant Luo Qingxue standing to your right, a lecherous smile appearing on his face. He remained seated, not bothering to rise, and spoke to you with a touch of arrogance. I presume this must be the new sect master of the Changsheng sect? This lowly one, the young sect master of the Shenshu sect, greets the sect master. It is rumored that the imperial soul of the Xuanji Great Emperor within your sect has dissipated. Our ancestor was deeply grieved and specifically dispatched this junior to offer some condolences to your sect. Having said this, the beastly youth shook his head, wearing an expression of smug triumph. To think that a man of the Xuanji Great Emperor's renown would meet such a miserable fated end, it truly fills one with sorrow. I hope you all will moderate your grief. The members of the Changsheng sect said nothing, watching the beastly youth perform in silence, for they could all see the words seeking death written plainly across his face. You narrowed your eyes, observing the creature. This fellow was putting on quite a show, acting like a brazen hoodlum from the moment he arrived. Why was he so desperately asking for a beating? You had originally intended to ask their purpose for coming, but now you decided to discard such notions. You would kill him first and deal with the rest later. Naturally, since your sect's strength has diminished significantly, as the beast continued with his arrogant expression, preparing to speak further, No one expected that in the very next moment you would speak with complete indifference. Audacious, you dare to remain standing in the presence of this sect master? You are truly courting death. With those words, your eyes widened slightly. Hearing this, the beastly youth's brows furrowed, and then his consciousness was abruptly severed. In the next instant, the creature below was reduced directly to dust, and even the chair he had been sitting on dissipated along with him. The members of the Changsheng Sect sighed with calm satisfaction. This man, was life not treating him well enough? Why must he insist on walking the path to his own destruction? Now we are in for it, not even a corpse remains. The young sect master, along with the 5 Supreme Saint Realm experts accompanying the beast, saw the creature vanish into thin air, and their expressions shifted instantly. Damnable wretch, where have you hidden our young sect master? As the words left their lips, the 5 men unleashed their auras, the terrifying pressure of the Supreme Saint Realm surging from their bodies. To dare lay a hand on their young sect master, this Changsheng Sect has truly grown bold. All 5 were formidable Supreme Saint Realm experts. This lineup was clearly assembled to stir up trouble. The Changsheng Sect currently only possesses 3 Supreme Saint Realm practitioners to uphold its reputation. The disparity in strength between the two sides was glaringly obvious. Yet, just as their oppressive auras were about to sweep across the Changsheng Sect disciples, your gaze swept gently over them. Bang, 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 4 of the Supreme Saint experts detonated on the spot, reduced to blood and gore, leaving only a middle-aged man standing. This middle-aged man had just been on the verge of attacking, but when he witnessed his 4 companions reduced to a mist of blood in a single heartbeat, leaving him entirely alone, he stood frozen in bewilderment. What had just transpired? You are not trying to betray me, are you? While the middle-aged man was still reeling in confusion, a figure flashed before him in the blink of an eye. Instantly, the middle-aged man felt as if a colossal mountain had descended upon him, forcing him to his knees against his will. His internal organs felt as if they were being crushed, and a mouthful of fresh blood sprayed from his lips. Seeing this, you tempered the weight of your aura by a level. Only then did the middle-aged man recover from the suffocating pressure. His entire body trembled, his face filled with terror as he looked at the great emperor. 2 words flashed through the middle-aged man's mind. This Changsheng Sect had actually birthed a great emperor. At this moment you looked down upon him from above, saying, I ask and you answer. Do so, and I shall spare your life. The reason you spared him was naturally to uncover the purpose of their arrival. Yes, yes, the middle-aged man answered, trembling with fear, not daring to harbor any deceit. For what purpose did you come to the Changsheng Sect? The middle-aged man replied honestly, we came to accompany the young sect master to... You frowned slightly. Who and whom? The middle-aged man looked toward Luo Qingxue, who had stepped up behind you and said, our young sect master and the saints of your honorable sect. The saintess of the Changsheng Sect is, naturally, Luo Qingxue. Hearing this, Luo Qingxue furrowed her brows. At this moment, Xiaojue glanced at Luo Qingxue, stepped toward. It turns out that once, when Luo Qingxue traveled with Xiaojue, they encountered a beast of a man who was instantly struck by her breathtaking beauty. Ever since that day, that beast has been obsessed with her, his heart clouded by lust, constantly harboring sinister intentions. It is clear that his arrival at the Changsheng Sect this time is an attempt to exploit the power vacuum left by the disappearance of the Emperor's soul, Yang Xuanji. He seeks to force an alliance between the Changsheng Sect and the Shenshu Sect to achieve his own vile ends. A toad lusting after a swan truly pathetic. To let him die so easily would be far too generous. You spat on the ground, then narrowed your eyes as you gazed at the middle-aged man. Is it really as simple as an alliance? I refuse to believe that a quasi-emperor-level orthodoxy would send a young sect master merely to discuss an alliance. There must be another motive. The middle-aged man gulped, his resolve crumbling as he confessed everything. Sect master, we were ordered to come here to divert the attention of the Changsheng Sect, he stammered. While on the other front we sent men to secretly seize the 3 western spirit veins of your Changsheng Sect. As his words faded, the expressions of everyone in the Changsheng Sect shifted instantly. Spirit veins are the lifeblood of any sect, and those 3 western veins were supreme grade, massive in scale. Half of the Changsheng Sect's total supply of spirit stones is derived from those very 3 supreme grade spirit veins. If those veins were to fall, it would undoubtedly shake the very foundations of the Changsheng Sect. I knew he had no good intentions. You let out a cold snort and waved your hand. The middle-aged man's body and soul were instantly obliterated. As for sparing his life? Ha! When dealing with an enemy, who has the time to honor a promise? Just then, Great Elder Shen Qinsheng approached you, his expression grave. He spoke with deep anxiety. Sectmaster, we have lost contact with all the elders and disciples stationed at the 3 western spirit veins. All communication, he continued. The transmission talismans of the guards have gone silent, which proves that those elders and disciples have, in all likelihood, met an unfortunate end. The 3 spirit veins have fallen into enemy hands. Your expression, however, remained remarkably calm. You looked at Shen Qinshang, Xiaojue, and Luo Qingxue, saying, the 3 of you, come with me, let us see this for ourselves. Understood, Sectmaster. The 3 replied in unison, and moments later, the 4 of you strode out of the Changsheng Hall. As you emerged, you saw a man in blue robes gliding toward you from the distance, landing gracefully upon the square in front of the Changsheng Hall. Xiao Ju. The young man walked quickly toward them, greeting them with a smirk, though his eyes remained fixated on Luo Qingxue. Xiao Zhou, Qingxiu, I heard that beast, that scoundrel brought men to your Changsheng Sect to propose marriage. Where is that bastard? If he dares to use his position to pressure the Changsheng Sect and force Qingxue to marry him, just watch as I cleave him in two with a single strike. Throughout the exchange, Liu Yiming scanned his surroundings, yet he could not discern a single soul from the Shenshu Sect. He was, after all, a saint-level practitioner. At this moment, you patted Shen Qinshang on the shoulder and he leaned in to whisper a brief introduction into your ear. Only then did you realize that this man in the blue robes was the holy son of the Liyun Sect. The Liyun Sect is an emperor-grade orthodoxy situated dangerously close to the northern territory of the Changsheng Sect. Furthermore, he is persistent suitor of Luo Qingxue. However, Luo Qingxue has never held any affection for him, though it would be inaccurate to say she openly detests him. I see, you thought, so he is nothing more than a sycophant chasing after Qingxue. Realizing this, the situation became clear. No wonder he appeared so hurried. He clearly feared that the Changsheng Sect would buckle under pressure. He acted out of fear that they would marry Luo Qingxue off to a beast to form an alliance with the Shenshu Sect, driving him to rush here alone and unsupported. A persistent fool in love, after all. Finished with your thoughts, you flicked your sleeve casually. Following a sudden distortion of the heavens and earth, you found yourselves transported to an entirely different realm. This was the base of one of the Changsheng Sect's spiritual vein nodes. However, as Shen Qinshang's divine sense swept through the underground spiritual space, he sensed that something was amiss. Sectmaster, he reported, the people within the underground spiritual space have been entirely replaced. Only a single Saint Realm practitioner from the Shenshu Sect remains to guard the area. The disciples and elders of our Changsheng Sect, along with the hired rogue cultivators, are nowhere to be found. Furthermore, there are no corpses nor any remnants of a struggle. You had also sensed this peculiar irregularity. Your divine sense swept toward the underground spiritual space, and with a casual reach, you plucked an old man from the depths and held him in your grasp. This old man was, indeed, the Saint Realm powerhouse of the Shenshu Sect assigned to guard this location. Moments ago, he had been inspecting the purity of the spiritual vein, calculating how best to harvest it and transport it back to his own sect. Witnessing this, Liu Yiming was struck with sheer terror. To effortlessly snatch a Saint Realm powerhouse out of thin air was unthinkable. Is this sect master truly so formidable, he wondered. You spoke coldly, demanding, where are the disciples and elders of our Changsheng Sect who are guarding this vein, and where are the rogue miners? Have you slaughtered them all? No, not at all, the old man stammered. Despite being a Saint Realm powerhouse in his own right, he was pinned firmly by this young man in white, unable to even twitch a finger. Sensing that the man's cultivation level far eclipsed his own, he dared not show the slightest hint of resistance. Then where have they gone? You pressed him for an answer. Just as the old man prepared to speak, a loud bang echoed. He suddenly exploded into a cloud of dust. You frowned slightly, swearing to yourself that this person was definitely not crushed by your hand. This man is clearly framing the sect master. Shen Tongkong asks with curiosity, it is likely that someone has planted a spiritual consciousness restriction within him to guard a certain secret. The moment he attempts to divulge it, he will suffer a soul-destroying death. Li Changsheng hears this but remains indifferent. After all, having lived for 100,000 years, his experience is vast, and such methods are nothing new to him. Immediately after, he sweeps his divine sense across the spiritual vein space deep underground. The minds of the Shenshu Sect members hidden within stir, and the underground spiritual vein instantly erupts like a display of fireworks. A brilliant golden explosion ensues, and in the next moment, every member of the Shenshu Sect is obliterated in an instant. You let your thoughts drift once more. Following the path of the spiritual veins, you and your companions reappear in another realm in the blink of an eye. The situation is identical to the previous spiritual vein. A powerhouse of the Saint-quelling realm from the Shenshu Sect stands guard, and you casually seize him. Just like the last, the words die in his throat before he can speak, and he disintegrates into a mist of blood. Another attempt to frame you occurs, after which you once again effortlessly annihilate all the Shenshu Sect members within the spiritual vein. The group arrives at the third spiritual vein base. This time, too lazy to interrogate anyone, you simply wave your hand and wipe out every member of the Shenshu Sect present. Shortly after, you speak to the others with complete nonchalance. Very well, I shall take you to eradicate a sect for sport. From your perspective, the Shenshu Sect came to your doorstep to provoke you, and even captured the disciples of the Changsheng Sect. This was clearly a long-laid conspiracy intended to openly wage war against the Changsheng Sect, so you decide to deliver a service directly to their door. Is it not too abrupt? Upon hearing these words, Liu Yiming seems somewhat astonished. He knows the sect you wish to destroy is the Shenshu Sect, and he believes some preparation is necessary. However, witnessing your display of power just moments ago, Liu Yiming understands in his heart that this handsome Chang sect master possesses extraordinary strength. At the very least, he is a powerhouse at the mid-stage of the quasi-emperor realm, or perhaps even the peak. It is truly unfathomable. Despite his youthful and distinguished appearance, his power is terrifyingly high, yet the Shenshu sect is not so easily toppled. One must realize that it is a super faction with two powerhouses of the quasi-emperor realm holding down the fort. Relying solely on the Changsheng sect master, a single quasi-emperor powerhouse, it is feared that they cannot overcome them, and a careless mistake could lead to a crushing defeat. Thus, Liu Yiming suggests, perhaps I should summon some men and inform the ancestor of my family. His Luoyuan sect and the Shenshu sect share overlapping territories, and there are frequent frictions and conflicts between the two sects, with disciples from both. It was merely for the sake of the greater good that he had refrained from making a scene until now. For this very reason, Liu Yiming had long been displeased with the Shenshu sect, naturally hoping for its eventual downfall. Yet to devour a colossus of this magnitude required careful deliberation. However, the next words you spoke left him stunned in his tracks. There is no need, you stated, maintaining your usual indifferent demeanor. You cast a glance at the location of the Shenshu sect on the map, then with a single thought, the group instantly materialized in the void above the Shenshu sect. The scale of the Shenshu sect was indeed vast, occupying a total of 5 peaks, with the central mountain being the highest, while to the left and right, 2 mountain ranges extended north and south respectively, resembling 4 fingers gathered together. Viewed from high above, the central mountain looked uncannily like a hand raising its middle finger toward you. It is rumored that deep beneath these 5 peaks lie top-tier spirit veins, continuously channeling boundless energy to the grand protective formation that envelopes the sect. Gazing at the 5 peaks of the Shenshu sect ahead, Liu Yiming could not help but feel a tremor of dread. Are you truly serious, brother? We are only 5 people attacking their entire sect. Isn't this a bit too arrogant? I truly want to leave. Would it be acceptable if I parted ways with you all here? After a moment of internal muttering, Liu Yiming looked toward Xiaozhu, intending to say, Brother Xiao, quickly persuade your sect master. Tell him not to act so recklessly. But when he saw Xiaozhou and Luo Qingshui both appearing entirely calm and natural, he could not help but feel a sense of bewilderment. Liu Yiming tugged at Xiaozhu's sleeve and whispered, Brother Xiao, why don't you try to persuade your sect master? With him as our only powerhouse, do you truly have such confidence in his strength? Xiaozhu maintained that same mysterious cryptic expression, saying nothing. Watch closely and learn well. Enough with the nonsense. He is our founding patriarch. How could we possibly lack faith in him? Observe carefully. In a moment, he shall dazzle those eyes of yours. Completely baffled, Liu Yiming shot a glare at Xiaozhu, then shifted his gaze toward you. He thought to himself, this brotherly sect master does not look like the type to throw his life away. I will stay for now and see how the situation unfolds. If things go awry, I shall crush my jade token immediately and have the ancestor come to my rescue. In truth, Liu Yiming wanted to retreat, but out of respect for being in Luo Qingshui's company, he could not bring himself to display such cowardice. Thinking this, Liu Yiming stepped up beside you, feigning a stoic gaze toward the front. At this moment, your divine sense had swept through the Shenshu sect from top to bottom, but strangely, you did not find any trace of the captured members of the Changsheng Sect. Could it be that the disciples and elders of the Changsheng Sect guarding the spirit veins have all been slaughtered? Then why did they not leave behind a single corpse? Could it be that the habit of killing within the Shenshu sect is exactly the same as my own? Both seem to enjoy turning their enemies into nothing but bone and blood. You shake your head, recalling how the 3 supreme realm experts guarding the spirit veins of the Shenshu sect had inexplicably self-destructed during the previous 3 spirit vein incursions, and you begin to feel that there is something deeply wrong with this Shenshu sect. Liu Yiming watches you standing there in contemplation for a moment, silently muttering to himself, Brother Sect Master must be thinking of a way to break the formation, right? It is said that the Shenshu sect is fortified from within and without, protected by a total of 6 layers of grand formations, 3 layers on the outside and 3 on the inside, with each layer growing progressively stronger than the last. The Shenshu sect once declared to the outside world that behind these layers of formations lies a formation of the Great Emperor grade, as sturdy as a fortress of bronze, capable of withstanding the relentless assault of a great emperor expert for an entire hour. These claims might be nothing more than the arrogant boasting of the Shenshu sect, yet they surely hold some degree of reference value. I wonder if Brother Sect Master has prepared any siege weapons? He once heard his family's ancestor recount that one should not even dream of breaching the formations of the Shenshu sect without the use of an extreme Dao Emperor weapon, but since the Changsheng Sect was once a great emperor-level orthodoxy, it certainly should not be lacking in extreme Dao Emperor weapons. It only remains to be seen whether our sect master knows how to properly utilize such an armament. I am prepared, you say with a solemn nod. Hearing this, Liu Yiming looks on with curiosity, wondering where you have hidden it. He yearns for you to bring it out so that a junior like him might widen his horizons. Instead, you merely extend a finger with a nonchalant air, and toward the 6 layers of formations enveloping the entirety of the Shenshu sect, you tap the air lightly. With a muffled boom following your gentle touch, the formations shrouding the Shenshu sect, each layer acting like a thin membrane, are pierced through one by a surge of power devoid of any flamboyant effects. In the eyes of Liu Yiming, those formidable formations appear no sturdier than parchment, easily punctured and penetrated by your single finger. Liu Yiming stands stunned for a moment. Could it really be that simple? It seems the formations of the Shenshu sect are nothing more than this. All that empty boasting about their grandeur, yet in the end they were merely 6 layers of paper. Xiaozhu glances at Liu Yiming and remarks, Is there a possibility that our sect master is simply a bit too powerful? The 3 disciples, Xiaozhu and the others, have grown accustomed to such displays. After all, this is the caliber of their founder. It is good that you are getting used to it. Now let us proceed. You spoke softly, leading the way as you glided toward the Shenshu sect. Shen Tanchang Xiaozhui and Luo Qingshui followed closely behind. Lu Yiming brought up the rear, hesitating for a moment before drawing the sword from his back. Gritting his teeth, he pressed on. Who dares to trespass upon our Shenshu sect? At that very moment, the defensive grand array within the Shenshu sect erupted like a hornet's nest that had been stirred. Figures surged out from the palaces, swarming upward in an endless dense wave. However, the moment those figures soared into the air, your gaze swept across them one by one. Immediately, a series of thunderous explosions echoed. Regardless of their cultivation level, every figure simply detonated into a gruesome, bloody, and vivid display of carnage. To the eyes of the four, including Xiao Jiu, the figures rising from the ground and exploding at a specific altitude looked exactly like a magnificent, albeit morbid, fireworks display. What a truly unique greeting. Bringing up the rear, Lu Yiming watched the figures rushing forward like moths to a flame, utterly stunned. His eyes widened and the words slipped from his lips. After a long while, Lu Yiming finally regained his senses, only to realize he had fallen quite a distance behind the rest of you. He hurried to catch up. He had never expected this. He had anticipated a grand battle upon entry and had even prepared to crush his command token to summon his sect's ancestor for aid. But now it seemed his caution had been entirely unnecessary. Within the Shenshu sect, a Supreme Saint Realm expert wore a grave expression as he gazed at the five figures strolling through the sky. His pupils suddenly constricted. The Changsheng Sect, this Supreme Saint recognized Shen Tanxiang standing behind you, Xuanji, and immediately shouted, "Everyone, stay grounded. There is something unnatural about this." Hearing this cry, the elders and disciples within the Shenshu sect palaces and on the ground, who were just about to rush forth to defend, abruptly halted. Every one of them stared at the five figures in the sky with trembling hearts. What, in the end, was happening? Why did everyone who took to the air inexplicably explode? Lu Yiming, trailing at the back in the air, seeing the members of the Shenshu sect holding their ground, could not help but mock them. "Don't stop now. Keep coming up to offer your lives. This master has not seen enough fireworks yet." As he spoke, he couldn't help but gloat. His aim was based and clearly relying on your power, causing the members of the Shenshu sect to grind their teeth in hatred. He had long despised this group from the Shenshu sect, who had always relied on their sect possessing two quasi-emperors to act with unbridled arrogance. After witnessing this display of overwhelming power, the way Lu Yiming looked at you changed. It had turned into something akin to worship. The sect master of the Changsheng Sect is truly formidable. From your position, seeing everyone in the Shenshu sect gathered on the ground and refusing to move, your gaze swept downward once more. Bang, 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 on the ground, the members of the Shenshu sect began to detonate in large swaths. Do not assume that staying grounded keeps you safe. Since we have gone to such great lengths to reach your gates, you must naturally serve us with the utmost diligence. However, at that very moment, with a sharp whistle of wind, a middle-aged man suddenly surged forth from the great hall before them. This man possessed a face full of rugged bristles and a stout muscular frame that radiated a fierce, menacing aura. In his hand, he clutched a sturdy artifact, a golden bell, which shimmered with flowing light. It was clearly a quasi-emperor-grade weapon. This man was none other than Changsheng, the current sect master of the Shenshu sect and the father of that beast. You lot are oblivious. Changsheng had intended to demand why they had trespassed into his Shenshu sect, but upon catching sight of the group behind you, led by Shen Tenkong, his expression turned somber in an instant. It is you. You cast a calm, indifferent glance at Changsheng. Observing his weapon and attire, which stood out from the rest, you deduced he must hold a position of some importance. I shall ask you one question. If you provide an answer, I will allow you to remain whole in death. Your tongue is sharp. I know not which sect you hail from. Changsheng narrowed his eyes, scrutinizing your presence while funneling his cultivation energy into the golden bell held within his grasp. This golden bell was a defensive quasi-emperor-grade artifact, capable of withstanding the strike of a great emperor. After observing you for a long time, he realized with shock that he could not discern your true level of cultivation. I am the sect master of the Changsheng Sect. The sect master of the Changsheng Sect? Changsheng's brows furrowed tightly. Since when did the Changsheng Sect possess such a formidable sect master? Why had there been no word or intelligence regarding this previously? Could it be that the Changsheng Sect has been cultivating such power in secret? The disciples and elders of our Changsheng Sect who were guarding the three spiritual veins, surely you haven't killed them yet? Where have you taken them? Remember well, this is your only chance to remain whole. Li Changsheng spoke with his usual air of calm indifference. The reason he did not immediately reduce Changsheng to a mist of blood was that he naturally perceived Changsheng's position within the Shenshu Sect must be quite significant. Surely he would know where the captured disciples and elders of the Changsheng Sect had been taken. The only uncertainty was whether he had been implanted with that specific spiritual consciousness. You speak of things I know nothing about. Unexpectedly, Changsheng replied with these very words, his expression flickering with clear discomfort. Very well, you have forfeited your chance to remain whole. Li Changsheng had no desire to waste further words. He flicked a finger casually. Cheng exploded into a mist of blood on the spot. Along with the quasi-emperor-grade artifact in his hand, the golden bell shattered into nothingness, as if Li Changsheng had performed a task of no consequence. Li Changsheng turned his gaze toward the great hall ahead and said indifferently, "If you do not emerge now, everyone in your Shenshu sect will be slaughtered by my hand." Rumble. Immediately after Li Changsheng finished speaking, two terrifying auras surged forward like rolling waves. Moments later, two elderly men with white hair and youthful complexions appeared directly before Li Changsheng. Their features bore a striking resemblance to one another. These two elders were the formidable quasi-emperor experts of the Changsheng Sect. One stood at the peak of the quasi-emperor realm, while the other was at the middle stage. They were twin brothers, both celebrated as the chosen prodigies of the previous generation. The elder at the peak of the quasi-emperor realm was named Qin Shan, and the one at the middle stage was named Qin Hai. It is rumored that Qin Shan and Qin Hai practiced a synchronized fusion technique together. The power of this fusion technique rivals that of a great emperor-grade weapon, allowing the two of them to join forces and contend against a true great emperor. Because of this, they are known to the world as the twin heroes of Shenshu. It is precisely due to their existence that very few dare to provoke the Shenshu sect within the Qin province. In the past, the Changsheng sect would always avoid them whenever possible. Upon their arrival, seeing the sparse and scattered disciples of the Shenshu sect, the expressions of the two elders darkened. I did not expect the Changsheng sect to possess an expert like you. Qinhai's voice was grating and harsh. He scrutinized Li Changsheng with meticulous detail, only to be shocked when he realized he could not see through this young man in white robes. A great emperor. Qin Shan and Qin Hai seemed to have already reached a conclusion in their hearts. The Changsheng sect truly lives up to its reputation as the former hegemon of the 9 provinces continent. Its foundations are unfathomably deep, always capable of producing a great emperor without warning. Naturally, Qin Shan and Qin Hai were not afraid. After all, their combined strength could challenge a great emperor, and each of them possessed an extreme Dao emperor weapon. It seems the two of you must be the strongest and oldest of the Shenshu sect, correct? Li Changsheng looked toward the two white-haired elders before him, and spoke slowly. Our disciples and elders of the Changsheng sect were guarding the 3 spirit veins. Where have you taken them? Qin Shan and Qin Hai furrowed their brows, and then Qin Shan replied, defeat us in battle and we will tell you. Li Changsheng nodded, very well. As the words left his lips, Li Changsheng reached out a finger and tapped lightly toward one of them. Boom! Qin Hai, an expert at the middle stage of the quasi-emperor realm, exploded into a mist of blood and bone without the slightest warning. His body and soul were utterly obliterated, causing the pupils of the remaining brother Qin Shan to contract violently. Is there any need to continue this battle? Li Changsheng looked at Qin Shan and spoke indifferently. Chapter 11. A life has already been lost. Is there any need to continue this battle? The implication being, is it still necessary to trade blows? Qin Shan's expression turned grave as he studied Li Changsheng. Could this young man in white be even more formidable than he had imagined? Haha, you are indeed impressive. Qin Shan regained his composure and spoke naturally. However, since you have already unleashed one move, surely you should allow me to demonstrate one as well? Otherwise, outsiders might think this is somewhat unfair. Li Changsheng lowered his eyes, pondering, is it possible this man still has a hidden trump card? Oh, very well, make your move. Li Changsheng replied with an air of complete indifference. Clang! A longsword suddenly appeared in Qin Shan's hand, emitting a series of resonant hums, while golden light radiated from his eyes. His entire aura began to surge violently, a truly terrifying pressure. The 4 individuals behind Li Changsheng could not help but feel apprehensive. They retreated a significant distance, fearing that the shockwaves of the battle might implicate them. Simultaneously, Qin Shan glared at Li Changsheng and bellowed, watch this strike carefully. Whoosh! Before his words had even faded, Qin Shan spun around with incredible speed and shot off in the opposite direction. Flee, 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 and under no circumstances look back. At this moment, even Qin Shan's soul trembled. What kind of joke is this? With a mere flick of his finger, he reduced my twin brother to nothingness. The power is simply too terrifying. And without my twin, how could I possibly stand against such a monster? If I do not flee now, I will surely follow the same path as my brother. A look of profound grief crossed Qin Shan's face. Forgive me, brother. It is not that I do not wish to avenge you, but the opponent is simply too powerful. From this day forth, let us sever our bond. I only pray that you find someone else to seek vengeance. Meanwhile, Li Changsheng and his companions watched as Qin Shan suddenly bolted into the distance. They were left speechless. Surely, after creating such an imposing display, was this truly the end result? Lu Yiming looked toward the direction Qin Shan had fled, already seeing that the man had vanished completely, and could not help but find the situation laughable. Originally, he had expected a grand, earth-shattering battle, but he had never imagined that this old ancestor... Li Changsheng shook his head. Did he really think he could escape? Immediately after, Li Changsheng flickered and vanished from his spot. Qin Shan was fleeing with all his might, glancing back periodically only to find that the white-robed youth was not in pursuit. He breathed a secret sigh of relief, thankful that he apparently wasn't being followed, yet he dared not slow his pace in the slightest. Just as Qin Shan was feeling fortunate, he saw a white figure suddenly materialize before him. Qin Shan hurriedly came to a halt, his expression one of pure terror. Without a moment's hesitation, he turned and fled in the opposite direction. Li Changsheng naturally would not allow him to slip away right under his nose. With a casual wave of his hand, Li Changsheng snatched at the air, and Qin Shan's entire body flew helplessly toward him. A moment later, Qin Shan's throat was firmly gripped in Li Changsheng's hand. Now, can you tell me where your people have taken the disciples of my Changsheng sect? Li Changsheng asked with chilling indifference. Qin Shan hesitated for a fleeting moment. Li Changsheng applied a fraction more force. Qin Shan's face flushed red instantly as if he were on the verge of suffocating. I will speak. Qin Shan managed to choke out with great difficulty. It was Lord Yun Di. Yun Di? Who is Yun Di? Li Changsheng frowned slightly. At that moment, Qin Shan's expression shifted into one of extreme panic, his entire body trembling uncontrollably. He shrieked in terror, "He is here! He is here!" Boom, in the next instant, Qin Shan was reduced to ashes. Li Changsheng furrowed his brow. This trick again. It seemed this man had been branded with some sort of spiritual seal. Sigh, who exactly is this Yun Di? Li Changsheng rubbed his chin and muttered to himself. Behind Li Changsheng, a man draped in crimson robes had appeared, though it was unclear when he had arrived. The man looked somewhat bewitching. He stood with his arms crossed, watching Li Changsheng with an air of amusement. He said mockingly, "I am Yun Di." As he spoke, the man in the crimson robe gathered his strength and unleashed a punch, aiming directly for Li Changsheng's back in the blink of an eye. A heaven-rank battle technique used for a sneak attack. With a resounding boom, Li Changsheng felt a slight itch on his back. Whoa. The man in the crimson robe spewed a mouthful of fresh blood. His expression twisted in a frantic shift. Just as he prepared to flee, a violent, overwhelming rebound force surged from his arm. How could this be? His eyes widened in shock, and before the words could leave his lips, he detonated into a mist of gore, killed instantly by his own reflected power. By the time Li Changsheng turned around, there was nothing left but a scattering of blood and bone. Oh, it seems he hasn't truly perished. Could it be a clone? Li Changsheng uttered a soft exclamation, having sensed a figure suddenly appearing behind him earlier, attempting a sneak attack. However, Li Changsheng did not pay it much mind, for he possessed an innate defensive reflection ability, capable of returning all incoming damage back upon the attacker, thus leaving the assailant to cripple himself. Regrettably, Li Changsheng sensed from the void that the person was not yet dead. He likely possessed a clone or had cultivated some form of rebirth technique. Deep within a dark, desolate cavern, a pool of blood bubbled rhythmically. At that moment, a withered skeleton slowly emerged from the pool and stepped onto the bank, where its flesh and blood rapidly regenerated, restoring the appearance of the man in the crimson robes. Damnable. How could someone be so impenetrably tough? The man in the crimson robes gritted his teeth in fury. He had attempted an ambush, only to throw away one of his own lives in the process. Once he regained his composure, he muttered to himself that the white-robed youth was certainly no ordinary individual. He must report this to the high priest immediately. Chapter 12. Annihilation of the Sect. While Li Changsheng flickered away to pursue Qin Shan, Xiao Zhu and his companions were not idling. Taking advantage of the fact that the Changsheng Sect was currently leaderless, they launched a ferocious and relentless assault. Beat the dog that has fallen into the water, do not leave a single soul alive. Such is the unspoken iron law of the cultivation world. If one does not pull out the weeds by the root, they will only sprout again with the spring breeze. Failing to do so invites endless future calamity. Xiao Zhu's group understood this principle well, and they showed no mercy as they carried out the slaughter. This is the world of cultivation, where the big fish eat the small. Had the situation been reversed, with the Changsheng Sect attacking the Changsheng Sect, they surely would not have spared a single survivor. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Streaks of blade light and sword shadows flickered, blood sprayed in all directions, and heads began to roll onto the ground. The scene was a one-sided massacre, as all the experts at or above the Sage Realm in the Changsheng Sect had already been instantly slain by Li Changsheng's gaze earlier. Now the Changsheng Sect was left with only insignificant small fry, while Xiaoju's side possessed Shen Qingtang, an expert at the peak of the Sage Realm. Any guards with a modicum of strength were disposed of by Shen Qingtang, while the weaker ones were harvested like wheat by Xiaoju and the others. With the planning clearly laid out, the Changsheng Sect had been thoroughly purged from top to bottom. Thwack! Lu Yiming swung his blade, sending a severed head flying. He scanned his surroundings, only to realize there were no more heads left to take. He then made his way back to the main square to regroup with Xiaoju and the others. Looking upon the now annihilated Changsheng Sect, Lu Yiming was overcome with a sense of dizziness and disbelief. This was a sect with a foundation reaching the quasi-emperor level, yet the Changsheng Sect had been eradicated just like that. For the first time, he felt the brutal reality of how simple it truly was to destroy an entire sect. Standing in the square, Lu Yiming was filled with a myriad of emotions. After a long moment, he slowly smiled and spoke. A sect as grand as the Changsheng Sect, and yet it has been wiped out by our hands. The five of us are truly formidable. Although every powerhouse of the Changsheng Sect had been instantly slain by Li Changsheng's gaze alone, and they had merely been left to clean up the insignificant stragglers, they had at the very least participated and exerted some effort. To attribute some credit for the sect's destruction to themselves was, in his mind, entirely justifiable. Thinking of this, Lu Yiming now longed to return and boast to his fellow sect members. Brother disciples, along with 4 others, I have participated in the destruction of an entire sect. I have certainly not brought shame to our lineage. Xiaoju, standing to the side, glared at the smug and self-satisfied Lu Yiming. What does this act of destruction actually have to do with the 4 of us? Was it not the sect master who single-handedly annihilated all the powerhouses of the Changsheng Sect? After deep reflection, however, Xiaoju felt that what Lu Yiming said carried a grain of truth. He could not help but chime in with a shameless grin. That is right, the 5 of us are indeed remarkable. Whatever one sees, one has a share in. Luo Qingshui stood nearby, observing Xiaozhou and Lu Yiming with a bizarre look, as if she were staring at two fools. At that moment, Li Changsheng returned, suddenly appearing in the plaza of the Shenshu sect. He looked over the decimated sect, his face showing not even the slightest ripple of emotion. Having lived for 100,000 years, he had watched the tides rise and fall, and had witnessed the collapse of countless dynasties. The rise and fall of sects no longer stirred anything within his heart. Sectmaster Shen Qingkang, seeing Li Changsheng suddenly, "Brother Sectmaster, what about that old man who fled?" Although he already had the answer in his heart, Lu Yiming still asked the question as a mere formality. "Oh, he is dead." Li Changsheng spoke indifferently. "Sectmaster, I only managed to extract this much from him. Where have the elders and disciples of our Changsheng sect who were guarding the three spirit veins gone?" Shen Qingkang asked. He felt that those people were not yet dead. After all, he had arrived at the locations of the three spirit veins and discovered no traces of battle or corpses. Furthermore, those three spirit veins served as the lifeblood resources of the Changsheng sect. Shen Qingkang had even arranged for a Zhisheng realm elder to guard each location. Therefore, how could the Shenshu sect have seized those three spirit veins without leaving behind even a single trace of conflict? Those elders and disciples seemed as if they had simply evaporated from this world. Over these years, he had single-handedly managed the Changsheng sect, and he held deep feelings for everyone within the sect. The elders and disciples guarding those three spirit veins amounted to more than 3,000 people in total. More than 3,000 people had just vanished into thin air without a reason. Shen Qingkang could not help but feel anxious. Just like before, he had been unable to extract much information before the captive self detonated and their souls were scattered. Li Changsheng, however, remained very calm, but before he died, he did utter 4 words, summoning Lord Yundi. "Oh, that's right. Do any of you know? In this 9 provinces continent, is there anyone by the name of Yundi?" Yundi? Shen Qingkang pondered for a moment. Whether in the 9 provinces continent or the heavens and myriad worlds, those who bear the title of Dai in their name are typically individuals who have attained the Tao and ascended to become an emperor. Yet, he had never heard of such a figure. Within the 9 provinces continent, there was no great emperor with the title of Yundi. He had never heard of such an emperor. Shen Qingkang shook his head, surmising that it must be the person standing behind the Shenshu sect. Li Changsheng recalled that Shen Qingkang had once mentioned that the Shenshu sect had someone backing them. To be able to abduct over 3,000 people without leaving a trace, only a great emperor would possess such capability. Furthermore, immediately after that Qin Shan died just moments ago, someone behind him spoke a single sentence and simultaneously launched a sneak attack on him before detonating, yet he did not die. It is highly likely that this was the doing of that so-called Yundi. Abducting over 3,000 people in an instant, Li Changsheng fell into deep thought, as if he had realized something. Having lived for 100,000 years, he had encountered all manner of cultivation methods in this world, and he had seen even the most bizarre and sinister arts. Among them, 2 methods are relatively prevalent. One is the practice of harvesting the life force and blood essence of living beings, and the other is the path of ritual sacrifice. Previously, he sensed that the aura surrounding Qinshan and Qinhai was somewhat off, as if it were not derived from orthodox cultivation, seemingly carrying the distinct stench of the ritual sacrifice path. This matter can be investigated slowly in the future, Li Changsheng stated. "Oh, that's right. I should mention that I intend to sweep through the territories and spirit veins of the Shenshu sect's outer outposts shortly. You all are to return, gather your disciples, and transport the entire storehouse of the Shenshu sect back to the Changsheng sect. The Shenshu sect is naturally much like the Changsheng sect, maintaining numerous outposts and resources in the outer regions. As you command, Sectmaster. Does the Shenshu sect still have?" Shen Qingkang produced a map, marking it as he spoke, much like the King of Hell marking souls for the afterlife. The Shenshu sect holds roughly 10 major territories and resource strongholds in the outer regions. After dispatching Shen Qingkang and the others, Li Changsheng set out to pay a personal visit to each of those locations. Within the span of a few minutes, every one of the Shenshu sect's outer strongholds was systematically dismantled by Li Changsheng. Everything happened in an instant. The elders and disciples guarding those outposts were unaware of what had transpired before they were sent to their graves, suffering no pain at all. Once all the outposts were eradicated, Li Changsheng, acting as though he had merely finished a trivial chore, descended into a bustling town to sip wine and admire the flowers. No one would have guessed that this young man in white, who appeared so pure, harmless, and strikingly handsome, had just casually annihilated an entire sect not long ago. After finishing his drink and satisfying his thirst, Li Changsheng took his time admiring the beauty of the world, eventually walking back to the Changsheng sect, arriving 5 days later. Chapter 13, Great Treason and Rebellion. After Lu Yiming returned to the Changsheng sect, Shen Qingchang had nearly finished settling the administrative affairs. The resources from the Shenshu sect's storehouses had been fully transported to the Changsheng sect, though Shen Qingkang refrained from sending men to occupy their former territories. He feared that by sending disciples to garrison those areas, he would suffer the same fate as the disciples and elder who previously guarded the 3 spirit veins and vanished without a trace, a loss he could not afford. After all, the current roster of experts within the Changsheng sect was not sufficient to spread their forces so thinly. Li Changsheng understood the disadvantages of garrisoning those territories as well. Therefore, upon returning to the Changsheng sect, Li Changsheng headed straight for the sect's treasury, intending to gather materials to refine medicinal pills and craft talismans, thereby enhancing the overall strength of the Changsheng Sect. Having spent 10,000 years in this world, and realizing his own immense power, he had developed a profound curiosity regarding the arts of alchemy and talisman crafting within the cultivation world. Therefore, during his leisure hours, Li Changsheng found it rather amusing to dabble in the art of alchemy, reaching a level 1 might call passable. It was merely the skill of rolling medicinal pills by hand, yet the variety of elixirs he could produce was quite extensive. Whether it was for enhancing one's cultivation base, providing a boost to combat endurance, or serving as a healing agent, as long as he possessed the alchemical recipe, he could craft them with ease. As for the creation of talismans, Li Changsheng considered himself to have a natural talent. He would simply take the designated materials and casually scribe his intentions upon them. For instance, with a lightning talisman, Li Changsheng would simply write the character for thunder onto the specialized material, and upon being cast, a bolt of heavenly lightning would descend. Or, taking a defensive talisman as an example, Li Changsheng only needed to write the character for hardness, and its defensive power would become exceptionally formidable. Then, there were the speed-enhancing talismans. He only needed to write the character for swift, and no one would be able to keep pace with the user. In essence, regardless of the type of talisman, as long as the material was durable enough to withstand the character he inscribed, the result would be a masterpiece. It was precisely because of this that 20,000 years ago, the Changsheng Sect, thanks to the quality of his talisman making, received a resounding reputation abroad, famously coined as, whatever the Changsheng Sect produces, it is bound to be a masterpiece. Thus, Li Changsheng sometimes found the alchemists and talisman masters of this world quite puzzling. They required such extensive time to refine a single pill or craft a single talisman. Were alchemy and talisman making truly that difficult? It was fortunate that he kept these thoughts to himself, for he knew not how many alchemists and talisman masters might have had their Tao hearts shattered due to such a remark, leading them to suffer from qi deviation. Very well, that is enough contemplation for now. Li Changsheng wandered through the storehouse of the Changsheng Sect, and combined with the resources and materials plundered from the Shenshu Sect, he had gathered a sufficient supply of herbs and materials for alchemy and talisman making. He ordered the disciples to transport all of these herbs and mystical materials to the back mountain. Li Changsheng gave his instructions to Shen Xingkang. Shen Xingkang nodded and immediately arranged for the people to move all the herbs from the warehouse and the materials gathered from the beasts to Li Changsheng's residence on the back mountain. Li Changsheng tossed them a few alchemical recipes and lists of talisman material combinations, telling them to categorize and collect everything accordingly, while he himself sat in the nearby pavilion. Such pure satisfaction. Furthermore, after Lu Yiming and Xiao Jia returned one after another, the Liu Yun sect made a decision that defied the traditions of their ancestors. They intended to withdraw from the Liu Yun sect and join the Changsheng sect. Have you lost your mind, boy? After Lu Yiming informed his father, Lu Chenfeng, of his decision, his father was driven to the brink of rage, pointing a trembling finger at Lu Yiming's forehead while berating him. Lu Chenfeng wore black robes. With his broad face and downturned lower lip, he possessed an air of natural authority that commanded respect even without anger. In his daily management of the Liu Yun sect, he was known for his iron-fisted methods. Within the Liu Yun sect, both elders and disciples alike held his dignity in profound awe. Yet for all his imposing majesty, he often found himself at a total loss when facing this defiant son of his. In the past, Lu Yiming had shown no interest in cultivation, frequently haunting places of vice and indulgence. Though he would often beat and scold this rebellious son, he refused to listen to reason, and now, after sneaking out on a journey, he seemed to have suffered some mental lapse, returning only to declare that he wished to withdraw from the Liu Yun sect, join the Changsheng sect, and commit the ultimate act of abandoning his master and betraying his ancestors, turning his back on his own path and lineage. If Lu Yiming were merely some insignificant disciple within the sect, it might be overlooked, but Lu Yiming was the young sect master of the Liu Yun sect, the rightful heir to the Liu Yun sect's future. If this matter were to spread, what an immense laughingstock they would become. Father, I truly believe that joining the Changsheng sect holds more promise. Lu Yiming replied with an expression of absolute sincerity. You do not understand how formidable the sect master is. The 5 of us ventured into the Shenshu sect, and with just a single glance he dispatched one of their disciples. Surely you know of old ancestor Qinhai of the Shenshu sect. He was a mid-stage quasi-emperor expert, yet he was reduced to ashes by a single tap of the sect master's finger. The sect master is truly peerless. Father, my withdrawal from the Liu Yun sect this time, and my decision to join the Changsheng sect is solely to master his arts. Once I have perfected my skills, I will certainly return. Lu Yiming spoke with grand justification. The image of Li Changsheng obliterating an opponent with a single glance had left a profound impression on him, fueling his desire to learn at his side. Thinking of a future where he too could simply snap his fingers and watch his enemies vanish into nothingness, his heart surged with uncontrollable excitement. Lu Shenfeng was so incensed he had no outlet for his fury. Do you truly believe you are pursuing the path of cultivation? You young rascal, do not think I am unaware of what is churning in that mind of yours. Lu Shenfeng was naturally all too familiar with the character of his own son. It was rare for Lu Yiming to be so devoted to anyone, let alone Luo Qingshui of the Changsheng sect. Everyone in the Lu Yun sect was well aware of this situation, but to forsake one's own sect and join another merely to pursue a woman? What kind of dignity does that leave us? Father, no matter what, I am determined to join the Changsheng Sect. You might as well strike me dead if you refuse. Lu Yiming spoke with unwavering resolve, adopting an expression of one who held his life in contempt, the very definition of a rebellious son. Lu Shenfeng raised his hand to strike, yet Lu Yiming closed his eyes and did not even attempt to dodge. Lu Shenfeng's hand remained suspended in the air, ultimately failing to descend. Lu Yiming was after all his only son. He could scold him in a fit of rage, but he truly could not bring himself to strike him. He heaved a weary sigh, looking at the son before him who lacked the slightest ambition, and waved his hand dismissively. Get out, be gone. Do not return here again. Without a brat like you to aggravate me, I shall live at least several hundred years longer. Lu Yiming opened his eyes. Father, then I shall take my leave. Once I have mastered my craft and returned, I shall surely dazzle the eyes of those elders and disciples back in the sect. Get out, get out, get out. Lu Shenfeng could not even be bothered to look at Lu Yiming and waved him away in exasperation. Lu Yiming turned, and in the blink of an eye, he had vanished from sight. Sigh, this rebellious son. Lu Shenfeng shook his head helplessly, sighed once more, and then cast his gaze toward the chair beside him. Sitting upon that chair, appearing from nowhere, was an elderly man dressed in azure dharma robes. This elder was none other than the ancestor of the Lu Yun sect, Lu Shouji. Ancestor, why would you allow Yiming to join the Changsheng sect? Lu Shenfeng looked at Lu Shouji, his expression turning serious as he asked in curiosity. It was none other than this ancestor, who had sent a voice transmission earlier instructing him to let the boy be. That was the only reason he had allowed Lu Yiming to depart. Otherwise, given his temperament, he would have placed Lu Yiming under house arrest for at least several years. He would not have permitted Lu Yiming to step a single inch outside the sect's boundaries. I have just paid a visit to the Shishu sect. The Shenshu sect has indeed been annihilated. The ancestor of the Lu Yun sect spoke slowly. What? Lu Chenfeng was utterly shaken. It turned out the boy's words were the truth. Lu Shujuo nodded slowly. Previously, Lu Yiming had returned and spoken to them with the utmost gravity, claiming that the Shenshu sect had been annihilated, and further boasting that he had played a part in it. Lu Chenfeng and Lu Shujuo naturally found it hard to believe. However, the matter was of grave importance, and regardless of how playful Lu Yiming could be, his character was not so reckless as to fail to distinguish the weight of such a situation, which was why Lu Shujuo had secretly made the trip. The Shenshu sect was indeed, as Lu Yiming had described, the entire sect had been slaughtered, with not a single elder or outer disciple left alive. Receiving confirmation from the old ancestor, Lu Chenfeng's heart hammered against his chest like rolling thunder. This news was truly world-shaking. One must realize that the Shenshu sect was guarded by two quasi-emperor-level experts. They were a superpower after all. Those two quasi-emperors, if they joined forces, could even contend against a true great emperor. The fact that they had been wiped out like this was simply inconceivable. To think that the Changsheng sect had produced a great emperor with such transcendent strength. Lu Chenfeng remarked with deep emotion, old ancestor, is this the reason you allowed Yiming to join the Changsheng sect? No. Lu Shujuo shook his head. Do you know what the world called the Changsheng sect 20,000 years ago? What were they called? Lu Chenfeng asked, bewildered. The Changsheng immortal sect, Lu Shujuo enunciated each word clearly. As he spoke, his voice could not help but tremble with a trace of awe. Refining pills with bare hands. Inside the pavilion on the cliffs of the Changsheng sect's back mountain, Li Changsheng lay leisurely upon a rattan chair, eating roasted beast meat, sipping fine wine, and admiring the scenery. Truly carefree. On the clearing behind him, Xiaoju and Luo Qingxue were sorting medicinal herbs into piles, following the pill formulas that Li Changsheng had provided. Li Changsheng had considered every disciple and elder in the sect, preparing pill formulas for every cultivation stage. After all, they were all members of the Changsheng sect. Furthermore, Li Changsheng treated every member of his sect, disciples and elders alike, with equal care. He would not mistreat a single one of them. There were also various beast hides, beast bones, and barks from ancient trees that had been carefully selected, intended to be used for the creation of talismans. The supply of beast hides, bones, and bark was quite substantial. Moreover, to create a single talisman, the materials required were only about the size of a palm. Thus, Li Changsheng intended to craft a set of talisman equipment for every member of the Changsheng sect, consisting of three types, offense, and speed, ensuring they were well. Xiao Jue and Luo Qingxue, having sorted all the materials, went to the pavilion and poured themselves some spirit tea from the stone table. Menju, the medicinal herbs are all prepared, and the animal hides, bones, and old tree bark have also been selected. Xiao Ju took a sip of tea, a hint of anticipation in his heart. After all, Li Changsheng was personally refining pills for them and making talismans. He was eager to witness the old man's alchemy and talisman techniques. Li Changsheng nodded lightly, still leisurely sipping his wine, not in a hurry at all. Just then, a figure in green robes suddenly ascended from the stone steps of the back mountain and stepped onto the open space in the back mountain. He noticed the pile of medicinal materials stacked on the ground and couldn't help but let out a soft gasp before turning his gaze towards the pavilion. Xiaosheng Qingxue Menju Shengdi, hi, I'm here to find you all again. Isn't that the traitor to the sect, Lu Yiming? He strode towards the pavilion. The trio, including Li Changsheng, looked over. Oh, Lu Yiming, why are you here again? Xiao Zhou spoke first, his gaze darting between his Shimei on one side and Lu Yiming approaching. This Lu Yiming's persistence is truly astonishing. Shimei has given him so many friend zone cards, yet he still perseveres tirelessly. If I weren't his brother and knew what kind of person he is, I'd probably be moved to death. Hi, I'm here for something serious this time. Lu Yiming walked to the pavilion, grinning broadly at Li Changsheng. Menju Xiongdi, I want to join your gang. May I join your gang? Li Changsheng frowned slightly. Doesn't that sound weird? Do we look like bad guys? Ah, what gang? Lu Yiming, watch your words. Xiao Ju said with a serious expression. I mean, I want to join your Changsheng Sect. I hope Menju Xiongdi can accept me. Lu Yiming still said with a chuckle, join Changsheng Sect. Li Changsheng looked at Lu Yiming with a strange expression. What trick is this guy up to now? Aren't you the young sect leader of the Lu Yun sect? What kind of sense does it make for you to join our Changsheng Sect? I've withdrawn from the Lu Yun sect. Lu Yiming said with a straight face. I'm a free man now. I hope Menju Xiongdi can take in a homeless person like me, bro. Xiao Zhu had a bizarre expression on his face. You withdrew from the Lu Yun sect? Didn't your dad beat you to death? To join Changsheng Sect, I've broken ties with him. It's all good. Lu Yiming blurted out. What a filial son you are, kid. Li Changsheng looked at him with new eyes, of course. Li Changsheng naturally understood in his heart. This kid probably saw my moves when I annihilated the Changsheng Sect a few days ago, and now he wants to come here and latch on to me. Li Changsheng didn't really care about this. Lu Yiming is friends with Xiao Zhu, so whether he joins the Changsheng Sect or not, he'll come around often anyway. Since he's interested in joining the Changsheng Sect for protection, I'll let him do as he pleases. I just want to follow sect leader bro and learn some skills now. My heart is set on the Tao, everything else is just floating clouds. Lu Yiming said carefree and respect. Xiao Zhu gave Lu Yiming a thumbs up. Seriously impressed with Lu Yiming. This dedication to the Tao. I know joining you guys requires some kind of entrance gift. I get the idea. Lu Yiming grinned and took out a spatial ring. This is cultivation resources I stole from the sect's vault. There are spirit stones, spirit pills, and some other random stuff. Hope sect leader bro doesn't mind and accepts it. So polite. Li Changsheng took the spatial ring from Lu Yiming, scanned it with his divine sense, and indeed there were a lot of resources. He nodded and said, if you're so eager to join the Changsheng Sect, then stay. Thank you, sect leader bro. From now on, Lu Yiming will jump through fire and water for the Changsheng Sect and will never refuse. Lu Yiming immediately beamed with joy. Lu Yiming, doesn't that mean you have to call me Shisheng from now on? Xiao Zhu couldn't help but tease, nah, let's just keep calling each other the same way. Lu Yiming waved his hand, then turned his head to look at the piles of medicinal herbs stacked on the open space behind them, and asked curiously, by the way, why are you guys drying spirit herbs in piles like that? What are you guys trying to do? Sect leader wants to concoct pills, Xiao Zhu said. Concoct pills? Lu Yiming looked at the piles of medicinal herbs on the open space and couldn't help but sigh. So many medicinal herbs to concoct into pills, this must be so much work. Sect leader bro, do you want to go to the Kinjo Pill Concocting Association and hire some pill concocting masters to help concoct the pills? Li Changsheng stood up, shook his head. It'll only take the time to finish a cup of tea, no need to waste so much effort. Having said that, Li Changsheng went to the open space behind him and looked at the smallest pile of medicinal herbs. This stash is packed with spirit herbs to boost Jisheng realm cultivation, essentials for crafting Jisheng realm pills. These ingredients gotta be hella rare and pricey, duh. Quantity? Obvi limited edition. But hey, the pills churned out from this batch should be enough for the Changsheng Sect's current Jisheng realm squad. Let's be real. The Changsheng Sect only has a handful of Jisheng realm powerhouses anyway. Li Changsheng reaches for the pile of spirit herbs, then rubs his fingers together. A smooth yet firm force instantly spreads out, enveloping the entire herb collection in a flash. And just like that, the herbs float off the ground, rising into the air, spinning with a rhythm that's straight up hypnotic. Rays of radiant light burst forth from the swirling herbs, a dazzling rainbow of colors exploding everywhere. The light is so blinding, you can't even look at it. Damn, that's bright. Xiao Zhu and the crew shield their eyes. A moment later, as the blinding light fades, a wave of fragrance instantly spreads, penetrating every pore. Xiao Zhu and the others open their eyes to see over 20 golden pills shimmering midair. Eyes glued, the pills glow with a radiant light, smooth and glistening, exuding an irresistible aroma. Did he actually pull it off? Even knowing Li Changsheng's OPF, Xiao Zhu can't help but widen his eyes. He and Luo Qingshui were in charge of sourcing the ingredients, so they knew this recipe was for rank 8 pills. And in this world, only rank 8 alchemists or higher can even dream of making rank 8 pills. You can probably count all the rank 8 alchemists in Qinzhou on one hand. Rumor has it, a rank 8 alchemist needs at least half a year, maybe even longer, to concoct just one rank 8 pill, and the success rate is tragically low. But the sect master just waved his hand and bam, more than 20 rank 8 pills materialize. Alright, this is our founder, so everything's cool. Lu Yiming's entire worldview just got brutally annihilated by Li Changsheng's one-handed stunt. After a long silence, he finally managed to squeak out, Is that even allowed? Chapter 15, Crafting Talismans. On the open ground, Li Changsheng gazes upon the 20-plus pills floating in the air. Composed as ever, seems like our boy just finished something trivial. Well, for him it is just something trivial. It's just that the Changsheng Sect doesn't have higher grade medicinal herbs right now. Otherwise, even Earth Immortal pills, he could casually whip them up. Li Changsheng waved his hand and collected the 20+ rank 8 pills, then took out a golden bottle and put them all inside. The golden bottle contained another world, nurturing the pills and preventing their medicinal properties from dissipating. After capping the bottle, Li Changsheng casually tossed it to Xiao Jiao. Xiao Jiao hurriedly caught it like he'd found a treasure, then Li Changsheng went to another huge pile of medicinal herbs. This pile was for supreme grade pills, hundreds of times larger than the previous one, same as before. Li Changsheng reached out and started cooking. In the blink of an eye, 102 purple pills floated in the air. These were rank 7 pills for increasing supreme realm cultivation. Li Changsheng put them in a purple bottle and casually tossed it to Xiao Jiao. And so after a minute, over 2,000 rank 3 pills were put into bottles. Li Changsheng's pill refining officially ended here. In less than 2 minutes, Li Changsheng refined over 30,000 pills. Of course, besides pills for increasing cultivation and healing, Li Changsheng also refined a lot more. He handed these pills over to Xiao Jiao for safekeeping, to be distributed to all the sect's elders and disciples later. After refining pills, next up was making talismans. Li Changsheng returned to the Z Pavilion and took out a writing brush from his spatial ring. This brush wasn't ordinary, made from the tail of a Qinian wolf. Xiao Jiao knew Li Changsheng was preparing to make talismans, so he took out a basin of blood that had been prepared and placed it at Li Changsheng's feet. This basin of blood was from a peak supreme realm snake demon, captured yesterday when Li Changsheng was passing through a wilderness and casually grabbed it from underground. After capturing it, Li Changsheng instructed Shen Qingkong and the others to take the blood and leave it there. For later use, the three of you take those beast bones and bark and cut them into palm-sized pieces, and then bring them here, Li Changsheng said. Xiao Jiao and the others obeyed. Immediately several flashes of swordlight appeared. Stacks of uniformly styled animal skins, beast bones and bark were brought into the pavilion, piled into a large heap. Sigh, Li Changsheng sighed mournfully. Unexpectedly, he still had to worry about these things after waking up from a nap. How come those 7 brats all ascended? Forget it, consider it practice writing. Shaking his head, Li Changsheng pulls out a piece of beast hide. This beast hide was collected by the Changsheng Sect themselves, and it's from a peak Jisheng realm demonic beast. Otherwise, it couldn't contain that snake demon's blood. Xiao Jiao, Lu Qingshui, and Lu Yiming just sit on the side, silently watching Li Changsheng use a brush in his hand to dab a bit of snake blood, and then write a boom talisman for attack on the beast hide. This absolute unit still prefers the aesthetics of explosions. Casually finishing it, he hands it to Xiao Jiao to go test its power in front. Alright, sect leader. Xiao Jiao takes the newly made talisman and flies forward. Lu Qingshui and Lu Yiming also curiously follow to watch the test, arriving at a slightly more distant place in no time. Boom! Accompanied by a deafening sound, a giant mushroom cloud rises into the air in the distance, a heaven-shaking, earth-shattering explosion. The spot where Li Changsheng is standing is slightly shaken. The power isn't bad. Li Changsheng nods slightly and continues riding on Xiao Jiao's side. The trio of Xiao Jiao look at the giant pit not far away, stunned for a moment and can't help but gulp. This power can at least blow up a Jisheng mid-stage cultivator without defensive measures. Lucky we ran far enough. Lu Yiming says with a thumping heart. Playing with fireworks is too dangerous. Let's go back first. Xiao Jiao says, and the three quickly return to the pavilion in the back mountain. After they return into the pavilion, it's already filled with thousands of talismans. On the talismans, in addition to the word boom, there are also some words meaning stiff. Li Changsheng throws a talisman engraved with the word stiff to Lu Yiming. Sect leader bro, what does this mean? Lu Yiming catches the talisman with the word stiff and asks curiously. Later you slap the talisman in your hand onto yourself. Li Changsheng throws a boom talisman to Xiao Jiao saying, later go over there and throw this boom talisman onto Lu Yiming. Okay. Xiao Jiao's face lights up instantly, then he gives Lu Yiming a sinister smile. Lu Yiming is instantly frightened, his face turning pale. This isn't too good, sect leader bro. The power of that boom talisman can prop up a Jisheng mid-stage cultivator. I'm afraid I can't take it. It's okay, that stiff talisman is a defensive type. Li Changsheng says while writing, you slap the stiff talisman on yourself and nothing will happen. Why does it feel like you're using me as a guinea pig? Lu Yiming secretly laments, but thinking about the power of the boom talisman earlier, imagining the defensive talisman made by sect leader bro, can't be that bad, right? Plus our boy's rocking some armor that can tank a full force hit from a peak Jisheng. Guess we're testing it out then. And so Lu Yiming reluctantly says, let's get this over with. Chill out, dude. I, Lu Yiming, have god-tier aim. Xiao Jiao says with a shady grin, let's see if your exploding talisman is tougher than my skin. Lu Yiming retorts, flexing his resolve. Then the two bros charge headfirst into danger. Boom! Moments later, a massive mushroom cloud erupts in front of them. Inside that mushroom cloud, Lu Yiming, surrounded by raging flames, is baffled. Wait, I don't feel anything. Oh, so the soft armor didn't even flinch. This tough talisman lives up to the name. Then Lu Yiming emerges from the flames and he's still alive. What? Outside the flames, not far away, Xiao Jiao stares in disbelief as Lu Yiming emerges, energetic as ever. What's up? Were you hoping I'd die or something? Lu Yiming's face darkens. You said you had good aim? You chucked that thing right at my head. Heh, wasn't that supposed to check how durable this defensive talisman is? I have complete faith in our sect leader's talismans. How could it hurt you? Xiao Zhao pats Lu Yiming's shoulder and soon they head back, silently watching Li Changsheng craft talismans. After about 15 minutes of writing, Li Changsheng finally puts down his brush, and this time he churned out over 80,000 talismans. Stashing the talismans into his spatial ring, Li Changsheng finally stands up and heads to the Chang Hall to summon all the elders and disciples of the sect. A moment later, the Changsheng Hall, including the plaza outside, is packed with people. Xiaojiao Lu Yiming and Luo Qingxue, following Li Changsheng's instructions, begin distributing pills. Each cultivator receives pills tailored to their cultivation realm. After distributing everything, Li Changsheng finally speaks. These pills were personally crafted by me. Still waiting for the side effects to kick in? Nope, nothing yet. Listen up, every single disciple in the sect. Collective Pill Up Chapter 16, Overall Strength Buff. And with Li Changsheng's command, many thanks for the pills, sect leader. Every elder and disciple instantly popped those elixirs like candy. These are pills personally crafted by the sect leader himself, you know. The quality? Don't even need to ask. Including Xiaojiao, Lu Yiming, Ming Luo, and Qing Shui, all of them early-stage Jizun realm cultivators. Each received a grade 7 purple elixir. As On and the crew swallowed the pills, hundreds of disciples and dozens of elders instantly broke through, radiating waves of power. 13 elders who had been stuck at the peak of Jizun realm for ages directly broke through to the early stage of Jisheng realm. Just like that, Changsheng Sect gained 13 more Jisheng realm powerhouses. I finally succeeded. Ha ha ha. One elder was so moved he cried his eyes out. No cap, without Li Changsheng's pills he probably wouldn't have reached the Jisheng realm in his lifetime. Of course, even the disciples who didn't immediately break through still got a huge boost. Whether they were at the early or mid stage of their current realm, after taking the pill, their cultivation directly reached the great perfection stage. They could almost feel the barrier to their next breakthrough. Take Xiaojiao Luoqing and Shui Liu Yiming, for example. After eating the pill, their cultivation levels all reached Jizun realm great perfection. All three carefully felt the power within their bodies, super stable, without any fluctuations at all, as if they had cultivated it step by step themselves. And popping these pills feels magical, Lu Yiming said with a satisfied smirk, instantly reaching the peak of the Jizun realm. And his cultivation is rock solid. You just know this kid's over the moon. If he had to cultivate step by step, it would have taken him at least several decades of hard work. And this clown hates suffering the most. At this moment, he couldn't help but secretly think, how awesome would it be if he could keep popping pills to level up his cultivation? After all, these were pills refined by Li Changsheng himself. No side effects, no sequelae. And it won't cut off their future cultivation path. These elixirs have been tested for tens of thousands of years, the best of their grade, with the greatest effect being to enhance cultivation. For those stuck at a bottleneck, it can help them take that final step, allowing them to advance to the next realm. I feel like I've touched the threshold of the Xundi realm already. The Grand Elder Shen Qingkang also wore a joyful smile on his face. Although he had been stuck at the peak of the Jisheng realm for a long time, he still hadn't broken through on the spot after taking the 8th grade pill. After all, from Jisheng to Xundi is a massive chasm. Throughout history, countless geniuses have been trapped in this chasm, suffering unbearable pain until they eventually died in frustration. Of course, even though he didn't break through on the spot, Shen Qingkang was still very happy. The elixir had helped him touch the threshold. Touching the threshold? That indicates he has hope of breaking through to Xundi in this lifetime. Li Changsheng watched the overall strength of the Changsheng Sect increase significantly, finally looking a bit more respectable. Next, Li Changsheng tossed the ring in his hand to Xiaojiao. Speaking to the trio of Xiaojiao, Luoqing, Lu Yiming, the three of you, distribute the talismans I just made evenly among the disciples. Yes, the three of Xiaojiao responded, then began distributing the talismans. Each person received a small stack with a total of 3 talismans in each stack. The three of Xiaojiao had already calculated how to divide them for distribution. Attack, defense, and escape, they had everything covered. For a moment, this scene looked like they were handing out paychecks. Hold on tight, hold on tight. This one is the explosion talisman, capable of blowing up a Jisheng stage cultivator in the midterm. Later, if you see someone you don't like, blow them up. If the distance is too close, stick this sturdy talisman on yourself, and the blast won't affect you. I've already tested the quality of these talismans for you, there are no mistakes. This little bro, Lu Yiming, is quite thoughtful, explaining the functions of the talismans as he hands them out. After they finished distributing them, Li Changsheng added, that quick word talisman is for you guys to escape. It can perform several short-distance teleports. Many thanks for the sect leader's gift. The people of the Changsheng Sect expressed their gratitude from the bottom of their hearts. Alright then, dismiss. Everyone do what you're supposed to do. After that, Li Changsheng returned to the back mountain. The next day, Shen Qingkang rushed to the back mountain. The sect leader just dropped some news. The Qingfeng Sect, our affiliated force, defected to the Mingwang Sect. They straight up stole the medicine garden that our Changsheng Sect entrusted to them, claiming it as their own property. Can you believe this audacity? Chapter 17. Qingfeng Sect, Mingwang Sect. Li Changsheng takes a swig. What even are these nobodies? Changsheng explained sect was originally just a small fry. Within our Qinzhou, they got rich by managing a medicine garden for our Changsheng Sect. Back when the Changsheng Sect was thriving, we had too much territory, so we fostered some affiliated sects to help them manage the fields suitable for planting spirit herbs locally. We provide them with spirit herb seeds, but every 10 years they have to offer tribute to the Changsheng Sect. The amount of spirit herbs offered accounts for 60% of the spirit herbs from a field. Among the many affiliated sects, the most noteworthy is the Qingfeng Sect's successful development, because there is a small clump of Wanwu soil underneath the medicine field they are responsible for managing. Spirit herbs planted on that medicine field have a growth rate of 10 years in 1 year compared to spirit herbs elsewhere. 10 years is equivalent to a 100-year-old treasure herb. Because that medicine garden also has the protection of our Changsheng Sect, the Qingfeng Sect also rose with the tide, gradually developing into a well-known force in Qinzhou, and now they have also joined the ranks of the Holy Lands. They have 5 Jisheng realm powerhouses. Over the past 1,000 years, although our Changsheng Sect has been weakening, they still have old ancestor Xuanji, and they still pay tribute in a proper manner. It's just that 3 days ago, the 10-year tribute period arrived, but they failed to pay tribute on time. Yesterday, I sent a disciple to inquire about the situation. They then said that they had broken away from the Changsheng Sect. They joined the Mingwang Sect and will only offer tribute to the Mingwang Sect from now on. They even announced it to the outside world, saying something about how they have suffered under the Changsheng Sect for a long time, acting as if our Changsheng Sect has been oppressing them for a long time. Not only that, but they also attacked the disciple I sent to inquire about the reason. They straight up attacked him. If the sect leader hadn't issued a talisman yesterday, that disciple probably wouldn't have been able to return. As for the Mingwang Sect, it is the Earth-level Dao lineage in Qinzhou today. The thriving sect can be regarded as the only giant in Qinzhou. Their old ancestor is the Ming Emperor, who was granted the title after proving the Dao and becoming an emperor 5,000 years ago. The Ming Emperor once fought a battle with this Mingdi dude's power level is straight up monstrous. Lazu took an L, losing by half a move, ouch. After hearing Shen Qingchang's words, Li Changsheng shook his head, complaining, this young Xuanji kid is seriously trash. Can't even beat some newly promoted Dadi, becoming a stepping stone for someone else's rise to fame. Seriously embarrassing me. Back in the day, all 7 of his disciples were straight up bullying the old Dadi as soon as they hit that level, making a name for themselves by stomping those old geezers. But Yang Xuanji, he's just letting people use Changsheng Men's name to get famous. Of course, can't entirely blame Yang Xuanji. After all, he was at Changsheng Men back then, and everyone knew Changsheng Men was the strongest in the Jiuzhou continent. Every Dadi who just leveled up wanted to challenge Changsheng Men to prove their own strength. Ever since Yang Xuanji became a Dadi, he's been taking challenge after challenge non-stop, like 20-something fights in total, and that's why his life force is withering so fast. Sometimes Yang Xuanji just wants to rage quit. Why is everyone targeting me? Just because I'm weak? Of course, Li Changsheng doesn't care about any of this. Weak is weak. If you were strong enough, you could just beat everyone, no matter how many they send. Li Changsheng stood up and slowly said, let's go see what's up with this Qingfeng. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As soon as Li Changsheng finished speaking, Xiao Jue, who was practicing martial arts on the back mountain, and Liu Yiming and Luo Qingshui all showed up beside Li Changsheng. Oh, you 3 want to go too? Li Changsheng asked, looking at them. Liu Yiming nodded, grinning. We're tired of training martial arts, want to go for a stroll. Of course, the main reason was they wanted to follow Li Changsheng to bully some weaklings. They're clearly addicted after following Li Changsheng to wipe out the Shenshu men last time. Alright, let's go then. Li Changsheng wasn't that concerned. He glanced at the map and then they disappeared from the spot. Qingfeng stands imposing and awe-inspiring. Chapter 18, You Can't See Me. Qingfeng is located in the cold, snowy mountains northwest of Changsheng Men. Several peaks surround a flat area, and on that flat area rise towering pavilions. This is Qingfeng, and the Qingfeng's medicinal garden that helps Changsheng Men manage is right on a developed snowy mountain, primarily growing a type of extremely rare and expensive spirit herb. Its name is Bingpo Shuelian. Generally speaking, Lingzhao Lingyao usually hate encountering snow. In some places, no matter how well Lingzhao Lingyao develop, when winter comes, the snow falls and freezes them, their medicinal properties dissipate, or even worse, they wither. However, this Bingpo Shuelian is completely opposite to other Lingyao. The growth of this kind of Lingyao is inseparable from snow. It withers as soon as it leaves the snow, and the more snow there is, the better it grows. The snow mountain where Qingfeng grows Bingpo Shuelian is covered with snow and ice all year round, and under the snow mountain there is a patch of Wu Wantu that nourishes the Bingpo Shuelian. 1 year is equal to 10 years of growth. It can be said that it has the right environment and conditions. Because of this, the Bingpo Shuelian produced by Qingfeng is the best in the entire Qinzhou, and its reputation is excellent. It is currently mid-June, and in the Qingfeng area it usually doesn't snow until August. But this year, strangely enough, it came early in June. At this moment, the entire Qingfeng area is fluttering with large goose feather-like snowflakes. The sky is pouring down, covering the ground with a thick layer of snow. Heavy snow is a good omen, huh? The snowfall is a Linky essence, you know? In a pavilion of Qingfeng Diga, a middle-aged man in a white robe looked at the heavy snow falling from the sky and couldn't help but feel extremely happy. After all, the more it snows, the better the Bingpo Shuilian they grow will thrive. His name is Qi Xin, and he's the current Dadangji of Qingfengge with the Zhishneg peak cultivation. Behind him stood a man who looked quite similar to him. This man looked to be about 50 years old. This person's name is Qi Li, the Erdongji of Qingfengge, also Qi Xin's younger brother, and also has a Zhishneg peak cultivation. Since adulthood, the two brothers have worked together to run Qingfengge. Under the management of the two brothers, Qingfengge can be said to be thriving day by day. Talented people are coming one after another. Let's not fly through the air anymore. Let's step on the snow and report the good news to the Lao Zuzong. Qi Xin smiled, waved his sleeves, and excitedly stepped on the snow. Qi Li followed behind him with a serious face. Every year, as long as there is an early snowfall, they go to report the good news to the Lao Zuzong. The Lao Zuzong in Qi Xin's mouth is a quasi-emperor level powerhouse, but Qingfengge has never made it public. Since Qingfengge was entrusted with the management of the medicine garden by Changsheng men and rose to prominence, it has relied on a philosophy of staying low-key, not fighting, not competing, and never conflicting with any forces. For more than